Members of the House, it is my distinct honor and privilege to share with you during a moment in which we so often refer to as a moment in Black history. Mr. Speaker, members of the House, I brought with me today a beautiful piece of art that certainly pricks the conscience and the mind of me every single day as I walk into my office. Is a beautiful piece by artist Thomas Bashir, and the title of this piece of art is Remembering. Mr. Speaker, members of the House, it's important during this time of year that we stop, we pause, we reflect, but most of all, we remember. Mr. Speaker, I thought about what I would say today, and I couldn't help but reflect on your words often when you talk about serving in this place as the Speaker of the House and the ghost of many who have been here in the past. I also thought about, Mr. Speaker, the symbolism of this physical structure above us all, which we refer to as the gallery. For Mr. Speaker, it is in the gallery that we think about, I believe, the meta history. That bit of history, and some of you may have had this experience, where you think about not only those who are here in this generation, not only those who will come after us and future generations, but Mr. Speaker, we think about those who have come before us. And so sometimes, I don't know if you had this experience, I certainly have, where you just take a glimpse because you thought you saw the face of someone who has passed on before you. But that is described as the meta history, those experiences, Mr. Speaker. And so, as we think about those moments of the gallery, and even though physically we can't see a gallery behind our dear speaker, there's a cloud and a host of great witnesses who've gone before us, but they're here, we can't see them in the gallery, but they can sure see us. And as I thought about this practice for a moment in Black history, I thought about a few things. I thought about who might be in that gallery. I thought about Dr. Carter Woodson, G. Woodson, an Omega man who thought it not robbery to start Afro-American History Week, which ultimately became Black History Month. He knew the importance of being conscious and awake, Mr. Speaker, being woke. Then I also thought about Dr. Samuel DeWitt Proctor, another awake individual who coined this phrase and thought about God's meta history. I also thought about the why behind the recognition of the symbolism, as I said before, of the gallery. The truth, Mr. Speaker, is that my faith teaches me that there is a great cloud of witnesses that have made a pathway for us all. I believe that there is a crowd of witnesses in the balcony watching us. And Mr. Speaker, look who's in the balcony. In the balcony, Mr. Speaker, is my grandmother, Margie Hayes, who taught us great lessons of significance of the right to vote and to fight any barriers to the ballot box. Margie Hayes, Mr. Speaker, taught me that the Virginia Constitutional Convention that they first met in December of 1867 and included 24 African Americans and numerous white reformers and men of Northern birth. The Constitution provided for the creation of the state's first free public school system for all children, and it expanded the right to vote to all adult men who had not taken a significant part in the Confederate Army or in the Confederate government. Look who's in the balcony, Mr. Speaker. Not that way, but actually looking down from behind you, Mr. Speaker. It's Attorney Oliver Hill, Spotswood Robinson, and Thurgood Marshall having a conversation. That's why equity in education is so important. Look who's in the balcony, Mr. Speaker. There's a great crowd of witnesses. There's Congressman John Lewis. He's there, a towering figure, especially in the civil rights movement, renowned for his unwavering commitment to justice and equality. For it was Lewis dedicated his life to fighting racial segregation and discrimination. His leadership in the struggle for voting rights culminated in the passage of the Voting Rights Act of the 60s. Not too long ago, Mr. Speaker, the 60s. You know anybody born in the 60s, Mr. Speaker? This later gave birth to the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. Mr. Speaker, look who's in the balcony. Senator Yvonne B. Miller, the first woman to pierce the veil of male dominance and chauvinism in the Virginia General Assembly. Look who's in the balcony, Mr. Speaker. Rosa Parks, Ida B. Wells, Fannie Lou Hamer, who were all tired of being sick and tired. Not only because of the physical treatment and trauma, but the mental anguish, torment, and inequity and mean-spiritedness that they had to put up with. Look who's in the balcony, Mr. Speaker. African-American sanitation workers, Echo Cole and Robert Walker, who were crushed to death in February 1968 in Memphis. That led to the strike by the sanitation workers. Look who's in the crowd, Mr. Speaker. Look who's in the balcony. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who fought unapologetically for civil and human rights. In fact, he encouraged and joined the sanitation workers. Look who's in the crowd, Mr. Speaker. Peter Jacob Carter of Northampton County, Joseph Evans of Petersburg, Richard Page of Norfolk, Henry Turpin of Goochland County, all members, the first members, black, becoming members of the Virginia General Assembly in 1871 through 1872. Mr. Speaker, they have all been here serving, and they're still sitting in the balcony. We can't see them, Mr. Speaker, but they can sure see us. They were awake individuals, Mr. Speaker. Look Who's in the balcony, Mr. Speaker? It was your frat brother, Dr. Hugo A. Owens, another woke individual, awake, Mr. Speaker, who put the pen to paper in 1973 and wrote how important it is for us all to be awake. He wrote, Mr. Speaker, one man awake can awaken another. The second can awaken his next door brother. The three of them awake can make such a fuss that finally, Mr. Speaker, it awakens the rest of us. One man awake with dawn in his eyes multiplies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.